Next, I'll give you a little bit of context about how did this topic come about in my mind. So, a little bit about our school. We set up in Mumbai. This was a school set up by 60 CEOs. I was one of them. These CEOs come from top multinationals like JP Morgan, Deutsche Bank, Barclays, GE, Novartis, around the world. They came together to set up a residential campus in Mumbai. And our first goal was, we sat down in a room like this, not all 60, but 35 of us, which we could get together and said, what can we do to shock the system of education? What would that be? And so the one thing which, you hear it in every part of education is just, how can we make the students ready for the corporate world? How can they be better equipped to deal with the challenges of the corporate world? And so it just kept coming back, experiential learning, immersive learning. So then we said, which is the best form of education pedagogy in the world? And we said, okay, Harvard Business School Case Study Method is revered, and the top schools in India, the leading school in India, the Indian Institutes of Management, they only do the Harvard HBR way. And so we said, okay, we can't do what everybody's doing, let's do something different. Let's try and push the envelope. And so we came across this concept that, what if we started with the thing, what if we bury the case study method? Let's just bury it and now see what we have to, how do we teach them? Because Indian professors are used to following the Harvard Business School, referencing Harvard Business School case study method. If we bury it, where do we go from there? And that's when we said, okay, let's come up with a way of teaching. And so we said, starting off, we said, this, I'm sure you all know, it's constant, change is constant. You've got to absolutely try and change everything at a very fast pace. We heard it from the earlier speakers as well. So that was the sense. We got to change the way we are doing things. I'll give you a very simple example. So my career, I had an opportunity to work for banks. I was with Standard Chartered, HSBC, and Thomson Reuters. At Thomson Reuters, I was there for over a decade. Worked in London, New York, Hong Kong. Was running a multi-billion-dollar business from New York for them. Set up a new intrapreneurial company with $90 million funding from the boards of Chicago Mercantile Exchange and Reuters. We created a company. I was on Wall Street in 2008 when everything went pear-shaped, right? My biggest customers were Bear Stearns, Lehman Brothers, Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, everybody, even the Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs were gasping for breath. How do we make it work? And suddenly it went pear-shaped. I literally lost $90 million for my company. And I had to go around, so I worked in 50 countries around the world. I had to go to 16 countries, fire every staff, close down offices. And I realized how the world, things beyond your control. Right? The financial crisis was not what we were doing. We were the world's first foreign exchange. We created a model and suddenly it was gone. We were doing 5 yards, which is $5 billion a day trading on our platform, and suddenly we came down to $100 million and we had to close down the whole company. That's when change hits you, and then you have to realize whatever you've created is gone.
Things like Brexit, trade wars between China and America, bilateral trade agreements, multilateral trade agreements from the US like NAFTA being renegotiated, and so many such elements are changing. The Me Too movement is also impacting the hiring decisions of organizations. Then you have issues with respect to getting the right person for the job to lead through these turbulent times. We are in a VUCA world. The volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous world. And in this world, you have a static model. The case study is a great method to essentially understand the analytical skills and to provide presentation skills and understand the complex nature of companies. But the world is changing so fast, so that is losing its momentum. So we sat down and said, how can we do this simply, totally different? And we started by saying, let's bury the case study method. And now if we bury that, what can we develop? So at Universal Business School, we developed what is called the experiential learning waterfall. In this waterfall, we are saying, how can we create a curriculum which is 100% completely experiential in nature? So let me give you an example. We started with, let's say, finance, and we said, how can we make the finance course to be highly, highly impactful and connect the dots between the macroeconomics, industry, world events, and how does that blow down into the student's portfolio. So each student was given $10 million notional capital, invested in bond markets, stock markets, commodity and currency markets across the globe. And the beauty of that was, if Shinzo Abe in Japan raised interest rates, my students had the ability to react to their Japanese yen currency and their portfolios in the Nikkei. Similarly, if there was an election in Brazil, which recently happened, how did they churn their portfolio in Brazil on the back of the trade policies by the new government in Brazil? Or because of the China wars or with US, how did that impact the trade deficits of these countries? Then let's look at what happened with Khashoggi. Now, who would have thought that that event would impact oil prices in a country like India? But yes, because Iran was getting sanctions tightened by the Americans, oil prices shot up, the currency deficit impacted, and that's what the rupee went further down. Now, this is where we need to create a model where students are connecting the dots. And so if Donald Trump wakes up and tweets something, how does that impact that portfolio on a real-time basis? That's what I call learning in real time, adapting to real-time events. Let's look at marketing. How can we give a CEO experience to our students? Our students have the opportunity to be a CEO, CFO, CMO, COO, CHRO of a private limited company while they're on campus. Wait a minute, I just said they're on campus, but they're working for a company. We are proud to say every year we create 3 to 4 CEOs from Universal Business School, right? They actually run divisions, they manufacture, they create products. There are 15 divisions, they manage 100 employees. They hire, they fire, they do appraisal systems, they do valuation of the company, they do auction mechanisms. So they're literally running a company, right, in a day-to-day. Now, we're not talking of them making millions of dollars, but $10,000, $20,000 profit. So it's not bad. They create products, take it to market, and actually make money. And then they get paid off in dividend terms. Now, that is a very unique proposition that we have. Now, these are completely 100% experiential. Then you go a little lower and you say, can we do internships, live projects in various parts of the world, where our students had an opportunity to go to UK and look at Jaguar Land Rover and Boeing. They went on the shop floor and realized how 2 companies in the mobility sector had completely different methods of manufacturing. Boeing was completely on robotics, and Jaguar Land Rover was completely using human beings to do the mechanics of it. And that's where the wow, aha moment comes, when you actually get onto the real shop floor, understanding the issues. We had a fantastic project with the Dutch university where our students buddied up with an Indian and a Dutch person to understand how Dutch companies are growing spectacularly at 30-40% in India compared to the same Dutch companies in Holland, right? And that's the learning experience, the cross-cultural experience which they were able to get in that episode. Then you go down, we said we'll do shadowing. You should be able to mirror a CEO. So, have a day with the CEO, go for all his meetings, except for maybe the odd highly confidential meetings. Understand how he deals with HR issues. How does he deal with finance structuring issues? How does he deal with manufacturing operational issues, revenues, targets, budgets, all of that. Living the life of a CEO by walking in his shoes. That's what we call it at UBS. We then said, let's take it one level lower. If we can't get them out, let's give them simulation, game techniques. So we had a sandwich game on campus where each student was given a certain budget. They had to make sandwiches, and in those sandwiches, they learned operational bottlenecks, sourcing, pricing, product, raising prices when they realized that the sandwiches were going, or realized that they are not being able to manufacture sandwiches in time. That's what we call learning gamification and learning in real time. Then we said, let's look at the case blazer. The case blazer is a unique concept where for 48 hours, we said, we'll take the case study, we'll embellish it by making it dynamic, and things change consistently on the case. Now that's what we're talking about, that the case doesn't, and these students are put for 48 hours without sleeping, they're working in pairs, solving the case, and the dynamics is that elements of the case stop and change every time.